Hello and welcome to Dr. GMAT, your guide to scoring 700 plus on this test. Today we will cover our lesson number 2, probability of multiple events. So let's dive into this. Last time we covered simple probability, where you were only dealing with number of favorable outcomes divided by number of total outcomes. When we come to multiple events, probability is low or somewhat different, because you're dealing with two different events and two different kind of conditions. Let's go ahead and look at these conditions or scenarios and how they affect your results. In this statement 1, I have a scenario where it says I'm expecting, or I'll be happy today if I get an email and I'm in the lottery. So you see that this guy would be happy, or I would be happy, if both events occur, not one of them. Since he used and, that means he's expecting, or I'm expecting, both events to happen. And that is rather different compared to if I was to say I'll be happy if either I get an email or win a lottery. And as you can already assume, that my chances of getting an email or winning a lottery, either one of them can happen, my chances are a lot more higher compared to statement 1, where I'm saying I want both to happen, and obviously your chances will be low. So when you see a question where both events are supposed to happen or are meant to happen, the probability of each the probability of both to happen together will be less than each individual event. In this case, probability of me getting an email is higher than probability of getting an email and winning a lottery at the same time. This is a very key concept, and I want to make sure that you understand this. That probability combined of two events where both are happening together, and this is normally implied by using and, will be less than each individual occurrence, A or B. And the formula is listed here on the screen. As you can see, that you will be multiplying the probability of each event to get the probability of these two events where and is used. Now the case is a little different when we come to or. The probability will in this case be higher than each individual probability of an event, because my chances are a lot more higher. My chances to get an email or winning a lottery are higher than if each event occurs individually. And the formula here is a little different, because you'll be adding the probability of both events, and we will see them in action in a little bit. So let's look at this example. If a coin is tossed, what is the probability that on the first toss the coin lands heads, and on the second toss the coin lands tails? So I'm dealing with two events here. On the first toss I want heads, and in the second toss I want tails. And as you can see, the question mentions the word and, so they both are supposed to happen together. So what would I do in this case? On my first toss I have two outcomes. I can either have a head or a tail. So for head to happen, if I use my simple probability formula, I have one outcome that I want. Number of favorable outcomes is 1 here. Number of total outcomes is 2. It could be either head or tail. So probability of A to happen is half, where you will have a head. And same thing will be true in the second toss, where you want a tail. There's only one tail you can have in that one toss. So the probability of event B is also, or second toss is also half. So we basically take these two values, plug it into our formula that we just looked at, multiply these two probabilities, and we get an answer, 1 by 4. Pretty simple. Now let's look at how to use the formula for OR. So if a coin is tossed, what is the probability that it will land either heads both times or tails both times? So now we're using OR. We will be using the addition formula where we will add probabilities for both events. But the tricky part here is that you want to first calculate the probability of each event. And let's see if this makes sense to you guys. I've written down all the outcomes for each event. So for the probability for event A, the event A in this case being I want heads twice, in the first toss and the second toss. So how many outcomes do I have here? If I could have heads and heads in both tosses. I could have heads and tail in both tosses. I could have tail and a head. I could also have two tails. So there's one outcome among these 4 outcomes for A that I want. So what is my simple probability here for event A? Event A being I want 2 heads. It's 1 by 4. Same thing in event B. I have same set of outcomes that I had for event A, and since I can only have one toss where both outcomes are tails, so I have same probability for event B, 1 by 4. So what do we do with the event where either or can happen, either one or the other can happen? We just add both probabilities, and that's what I have done. 1 by 4 plus 1 by 4 equals 2 by 4. You divide it out, it's half, and the answer is D. It can be a little tricky, but as I always say, that you need to practice and hone on your skills, and you will definitely get better at it. Here's a simple chart that you can use and remember or memorize it. That when you use A, you multiply the probabilities. When you use and when you use OR, you add the probabilities. And the expectation of overall probability in case of A is that it's lower than individual probabilities of A or B, and in the case of OR, probability is higher than individual probabilities of events. Again, if you're trying to crack quant, identify your weak areas. Probability is mostly a troublesome spot for a lot of people. So identify your weak areas and practice, and keep identifying your weak areas, which you might think are not your weak areas, but you will be surprised. I definitely recommend that you go over official guide, the official quant guide, Dr. GMAT math class if you have time. If not, then at least you have GMAT math videos you can watch online, and hopefully that can help you score 51 if you practice as I speak. And again, visit my site. The next lesson in this series will be independent and dependent events. I'm hoping to release that next month. I'm sorry, next week. But hopefully within June of this year. So hopefully next week it will come out. Well, good luck, and